Well, the award-winning movie 12 Years a Slave is based on the memoir of Solomon Northrup, a free black man from New York who was kidnapped in Washington in 1841. It is also the story of James Birch, the notorious slave trader who sold him back into slavery. Birch would become an owner of a slave pen where men, women, and children were held before being sold as property. Today, all that remains of the site is a single building, now home to a civil rights organization and a small museum about slavery. VOA's Deborah tells us and takes us there.
Thousands of slaves passed through the doors of this house in Alexandria, Virginia, and the Freedom House Museum downstairs provides a glimpse about what they experienced. As many as 60 men at a time were held in this small space, separated from their families. Ugandan-born curator JULIAN cannot imagine what it was like for them to know they might never see their loved ones again.
Seeing that African Americans had experienced on a regular basis the separation of family, that for me was just so heartbreaking. Most
of the slaves had worked on local plantations picking tobacco. When the soil was exhausted, they were sold to plantations further south to pick cotton, says AUDREY, head of Alexandria's Black History Museum.
They were coming from a variety of places and then being held in the slave pens until they were shipped out or until someone was buying them directly from the pen, and then they would be brought out for inspection.
The slave pen took up an entire block and was one of the most lucrative in the country. There was a kitchen, infirmary, dining area, and an outdoor courtyard for exercise. The traders knew that healthier-looking slaves would command higher prices and even gave them new clothes.
The tailor shop would create the clothes that the slaves would wear at the market so that they looked expensive. The slaves, they would actually try to get rid of these clothes as soon as they could because they did not want to be reminded of being sold at market like property.
The slaves were sold for up to 4 times what the traders had paid for them.
People would pay $1,200 for a slave back in those days, which is the equivalent of almost $30,000 in today's money.
This metal door in the museum is a copy, but the bars on the windows and the brick walls are original. Jacqueline Nordorf, visiting from California, said it is chilling to imagine slaves crowded against these walls.
It saddens me, but it is our history. It was scary to be in a place where the slaves were actually kept and these people were sold for their lives.
When they were transported, the slaves were shackled together to prevent escape and put on ships or forced to walk long distances to plantations in the South. Visitors are encouraged to touch these slave chains.
We felt it was important for people to have, the ability to actually feel these things and feel the reality of what happened here.
Some people feel the presence of spirits here. The house now belongs to the Northern Virginia chapter of the Urban League, an organization that empowers African Americans. Chief Executive Officer CYNTHIA DINKINS and her staff say they have heard and seen things they can't explain.
I felt something brush against me, but I didn't feel threatened at all. And they're like, oh no, yes, we've experienced things like that, doors opening and closing, footsteps.
The slave pen was closed during the American Civil War, fought between the Northern Union and Southern Confederacy, where slavery supported the economy. After Southern-backed Alexandria surrendered to Union soldiers in 1861, the pen was turned into a prison. It was used to jail unruly Union soldiers and, ironically, Confederate soldiers who found themselves captured and held as the slaves had been. Deborah, VOA News, Alexandria.